Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to wait a few more minutes and see if anybody else would like to join us before we dive in for family hiking today. But thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we'll just wait a few more minutes and we'll go ahead and start. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon and part of our 2021 virtual celebration. Again, we are using Zoom webinar as our platform today. And so you as the participant, your microphone and video are automatically going to be turned off, so you don't have to worry about that. If you go over to the middle again, you have the chat bubble. You can choose to chat just the host and the panelists. If you'd like to chat everyone, please feel free to use that. And if any questions come up, there's right next to the chat bubble, you have a Q&A. Please feel free to type in a question through that, and we can answer that at the end if we have time. So with that being said, I'm going to stop my screen share here. And I just want to welcome everybody again. Again, my name is Abby Weddington, and I'm the annual events coordinator for the North Country Trail Association. And I'm excited to be today's moderator for the discussion about family hiking. For those of you who don't know, I am a mother of two. I have a 2.5-year-old and 11-week-old. So my experience that I can draw upon is really for younger kids. But compared to the 3 panelists that we have, I am a novice for family hiking. So I'm going to say that right now compared to everybody else. But today, what we really want to talk about is just what the panelists is discussing, helpful tips, tricks to help more families to get out on the trail. Who may have younger kids, teenagers, all, ages of all kinds. And if families that have been out on the trail a lot, we're hoping to give them maybe some fresh ideas or new recommendations that they could try for their next adventure. So with all that being said, let's dive in and get to know our panelists. So we'll go ahead and start with Matt because you're in the top of my computer. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and, your family?
You bet. So my name is Matthew Davis. I am the regional trail coordinator for North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin for the NCTA. And I've been here for about 15 years. And my family, we live in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And I've got 4 kids, ages 9, 11, and 2 14-year-olds. So 2 teenagers. Yeah, that can be a challenge. And just this morning, we're actually on vacation in Western North Dakota. And this morning we've already done a 4-mile loop hike in Teddy Roosevelt National Park's North Unit. So yeah, we definitely had a great hike this morning. And it's one of my favorite things to do is to drag our kids along. That's usually how it starts.
Love it. Thank you, Matt. Liz, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family?
Hi, I'm Liz Gausen. I'm a mom of 2 boys, a 4-year-old and an almost 12-year-old next month. So I have age gap kiddos, and it can be really interesting to manage that on trail. But we get out almost every single day in some way. I'm from the West Michigan area. And currently I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Thank you, Liz. Kate, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, my name is Kate Lemon. I'm the marketing coordinator for the North Country Trail Association. I live just northeast of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I have 2 boys as well. My husband and I have Gus, who is 4, and Theo just turned 1 last month. We have lived in Colorado, just Jake and I. We lived in Pennsylvania, that's where Gus was born. And then we've relocated to Michigan I think about 3 years ago now. And so we've had some pretty diverse experiences with the little ones in a number of settings, and hopefully I can offer some good input today on that.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, the three of you, to being here with us. So the first question, I mean, it might be a little bit different, but how did you all find out about the North Country Trail? I know some of you, obviously, two of you, well, three, including me, we work for the North Country Trail, but how did you find out? Was it, where you happened to be on the trail? Was it a job, or, how did you find out about it in the first place? Matt, let's go ahead and start and do the same order we did.
Yeah, so when my wife and I first got married, we lived in Ladysmith, Wisconsin, so northwestern Wisconsin, and we lived really close to the Ice Age Trail. And we started out volunteering on the Ice Age Trail, but it wasn't our cup of tea. And so we knew there was another National Scenic Trail in northern Wisconsin, and I think I reached out to Bill Menke, who was I don't remember exactly what his title was, crew boss or something like that at the time. And he got us involved with the Brule St. Croix chapter. And I think we participated in one work day, and then we ended up moving to North Carolina. So, so that was a kind of our real quick first go round. But we loved going out and hiking on the trail in Wisconsin. It's still special.
Perfect. Thank you. Liz, did you want to say how you got introduced to the North Country Trail?
I don't have a time where it hasn't been an awareness in my life, and I don't know exactly when it's like, oh, this is the NCT. Having grown in life, I didn't deliberately start hiking it until I graduated from high school, and then I started backpacking solo, as well as working in jobs and education where I could take students out on trail through pictured rocks. And then with the Hike 100 program, that really became a goal, and now kind of an obsession. So not an exact time, it's just always been, the Blue Blazes have been there in my life.
Thank you. Kate?
My story is similar to Liz's in that I've been on bits of the North Country Trail over the past decade, 15 years, and sometimes been aware of it, sometimes not. But I really gained a pretty in-depth awareness when I saw this job posting that I am now that I've now filled, and so I was fortunate to learn a lot about it. I've had previous positions where I've known about the National Trail System as a whole, and worked for some public lands management out in Colorado, and so I had more familiarity with, again, the public lands use system and the recreation realm and all that. But honing in on the North Country Trail, I was fortunate to learn more about that within the past handful of years.
Perfect. I love everybody's hearing about how people, have heard about it. And, I must say, I grew up in Illinois, and so it obviously didn't go through, but, and then when I relocated to Michigan is when I kind of finally discovered, oh my gosh, there's another scenic trail. Because I only ever heard about the Appalachian Trail, like growing up. So, like I said, I learned late in life about it compared to many. So, but let's kind of dive into a family hiking about, we're going to dive right into it. Like, what gear do you bring family hiking? Do you make sure you bring a lot? Do you not need a lot? I mean, what are some things that you bring? And we'll go ahead and do the same. So Matt can go ahead and start.
Yeah, so this morning on our hike, a couple of my kids had their school backpacks, water bottles. I think I carried the snacks. So we generally don't have a lot of special gear. We're mostly day hiking. So, regular footwear, I think all of our kids have, decent sneakers, that you can wear, trail running shoes or whatever. So, to me, that's one of the beauties of getting kids out on the trail is you really don't need a whole lot of stuff. You can go out and spend a ton of money, but you can get by with what you already have, which is pretty nice.
Perfect. Liz?
Just to echo what Matt said, I definitely, my kiddos have the basic gear, shoes and packs, water bottles. I do personally carry like the 10 essentials, just having experience in backcountry situations and climbing and stuff. In Michigan weather, we're all Midwestern, so we can roll with that. Especially this week. I'm trying to be prepared, stashing rain gear just in case, or a warm weather layer. We don't leave without water or snacks though. Gummy bears are life on trail. So as long as we have those, we can get by.
Perfect. I'm noticing a trend. We'll see if Kate keeps this up with water and snacks seem to be a common trend so far.
Yes, water for sure. And we always keep some backed up in the car. I've started to learn to not, it's easy to overpack when you have a baby and when you have just a little one, because you think about diapers and wipes and changes of clothes and different and food. And do you want bottles? Do you not? It totally depends on where you are, what the weather is, how far you plan to go, et cetera. And it's nice when our youngest is not yet mobile. And so we can just toss them in the backpack. So that's one of our big essentials is, a hiking pack to put him in. And fortunately, it's got some handy storage to just toss in, 3 diapers and a pack of wipes and, a couple of those little fruit pouches, the applesauce pouches and stuff. But we've learned to keep a lot in the car, the changes of clothes, any extra shoes in case ours get wet, extra snacks, extra water bottles to avoid carrying all of that. Because there's always a chance that we're going to be carrying our 4-year-old too toward the end of all of this. So try to keep that in there. Also, I like to bring some kind of chill out activities afterwards, because sometimes if we've gone away, it's nice to have some books or some little Legos or something to play with when we get back to the car, or a towel. Towels are always really helpful to have back in the car. And so I try to keep my 2 kits, on trail stuff and then the car stuff.
Perfect. And I think something that I'm taking away from this, obviously, everybody has different aged kids, some overlap, but I honestly think it depends on what age your child is, how much stuff you bring. Because I can obviously, like I said, I speak to the younger, I can relate to Kate because just going for a walk, I have a diaper bag, I have a snack bag, I feel like I'm, it doesn't matter if I'm leaving for an hour or a week. It's almost like I'm packing the exact same, and so same would go with hiking. Like, I think it honestly depends on the age of your child, like kind of we touched about, how self-sufficient they are too, determines what you're going to bring. And we kind of touched about this too, but
Abby,
yes.
Just before we move on, the season has a lot to play with it too. Like summer, I think it's pretty easy, but once you get in those spring, fall, where, the weather can throw you a lot more curveballs. Yeah, you got to have a lot more stuff because, cold, wet kids or super hot kids can be miserable kids. And yeah.
That is very true. And, that's a good question too. Do you all have a favorite season, or is it just any time to get on the trail is a great time? But is there a favorite time of the year that you like to make sure, like, this is when we need to make sure we go family hiking, or is it just any time of the year that you like to go?
My least favorite time is the summer because the bugs can make it miserable. And I would say, my favorite or our family's favorite, it's probably a toss up between fall and winter. Winter is fantastic. If you can, if we get snow, it's a great time to be out on the trail. But fall, with the fall colors is really hard to beat.
Right.
I would echo winter too. That's actually a really nice time for us to be able to put the kids in a sled and pull them, or one in the pack and one in a sled, especially if there's snow. Just pull them through the woods that way. It allows them to experience it in a little bit of a different way and without them wearing down as quickly.
I just tried the sled thing this past year with my now 4-year-old, and I was like, this is amazing to snowshoe and pull him in the sled. I had always put him in the pack and snowshoed in winter. I will say that I definitely operate on there's no such thing as bad weather. So I do go out in all sorts of range of weather. But definitely that winter hiking is magical. It's quiet. It's a time when most people wouldn't think to go out, and it's just a really cool experience with my kiddos.
The other plug that I'll put in there for winter is, you see signs of wildlife, the tracks in the snow. It's like stories being told, and your kids get to see, critters going every which way, and they can figure out, okay, what made these tracks, which way are they going, all that good stuff that we don't get in other seasons because you just can't see, evidence of them. I mean, you might see an occasional critter go by, but in the winter, you might get, weeks worth of critters going by.
I think the winter gets a bad rep too, just because it's too cold. You need so much gear for it. But the way I look at it is you can always add more layers. And so, and in the summer when it's so hot, you can only take off so much or shield the sun so much or carry so much water. And so you still need to hydrate, of course, in the winter, but it's just different. And I think something big that I've learned with my kids is they started becoming mobile is throw out any ideas of distance goals for the day. It used to be, hey, let's go do this 5-mile loop. This will be great. And then at some point, he can't do 5 miles. He doesn't want to do 5 miles. And so the goal is just to be outside. And I think winter offers some really nice opportunities for that. Just play in the snow, like Matt said, to explore a little bit differently. And so you can totally do that in other seasons. But I think the winter is definitely underrated in that regard. And you can just pile on a bunch of stuff into a sled and drag it with you and keep a thermos of hot chocolate in the car.
Definitely hot chocolate afterwards.
Yeah, it's a little bribe too, if you need it on the trail. But and that just shows about how my mind thinks too of, being a newer mom too. I think winter, now that we live in Michigan, like I said, I moved from Texas. I grew up in the Midwest, but the last 4 years I was in Texas. So our weather was dreadful in the summer. But then when we moved up here and now that we have kids, it's kind of like, in winter, I feel trapped in the house. And it's like, why do I feel that way? Why don't we go on the trail? I don't know why, maybe I'm just nervous to bring them out, or maybe it was their age, but I'm definitely going to invest into a really good sled, and I plan to do that. But, living in Michigan, and even any part of our trail, basically, you're going to have winter. So getting out there, I just think you just need to do it. Do it once, and then you'll start to feel more comfortable, especially because now that you all have convinced me that I'm missing a really great season out there. So perfect. We kind of touched base on that already. So this is just kind of curiosity question about, I know obviously this is probably dependent on your kid's age and everything. But do you do more day hiking? By day hiking, I mean, it could just be an hour. It doesn't have to be the whole day, obviously. Or do you try and do overnight hiking? Like, have you ever hiked and did, a campsite, whether that was you had a hike on the trail and do a campsite, there, or you could also drive, find a campsite and then walk and then that place back. But I'm just kind of curious about experiences with camping, if you've done that with hiking, and how did it go?
You want me to start?
Sure, Matt.
So yeah, we've done a lot of day hiking. We've done zero backpacking. We have done some canoe camping, canoe trips, river trips, which is kind of like backpacking, but easier. You can kind of let the canoe carry a lot of that heavy weight. We've talked about, doing some hiking. Our section of the North Country Trail that our family has adopted is in Itasca State Park and has a beautiful campsite. We've been talking for probably 10 years of hiking in there. We just not pulled the string yet, but we can also canoe into that one. So we might, I don't know how we'll visit that one first.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Liz?
I definitely have done
We might have lost Liz. For anybody that doesn't know too,
Day
Michigan.
hikes and overnight hikes. Free. Oh no, I'm here.
Okay, now we froze. Okay, sorry, we didn't hear.
Am I back? Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, yep, we can hear you.
I have both car camped and day hiked with my kiddos, and I have backpacked with my oldest when he was 3. We did Pictured Rocks together, just him and I solo. That was a really wonderful bonding experience when he was a toddler. Currently, I'm section hiking all of the North Country Trail in Michigan. So my boys are frequently on trail with me and camping between sites and doing the hiking with me. Those days are shorter than my 25 plus mile days that I would put in solo, but I definitely get them out there and it's an entirely different experience, and I have to slow down and appreciate the moment, but I would not give up that for anything.
Perfect, yeah. And I feel like too, what you said too, is that, even just seeing things from a kid's point of view, through nature or something that they want to examine this rock or they found this stick. I feel like too, it makes me slow down, I know, and appreciate things more too.
Definitely. I had to learn how to be a slow hiker, and it was difficult for me, honestly, at first to slow down and adapt to my kids' pace when they started taking their first steps on trails. So that was a huge learning experience for me, but I love it. And it's an entirely different perspective of the trail. And I definitely see more and experience more, and it's just what I love.
Perfect, thanks, Liz. Kate?
I have not backpacked with my boys yet, but we've been talking about trying it with Gus, our older one. Our main sticking point for that originally was wanting him to be out of diapers, and he has been for over a year now, but the timing with having the second baby and during pregnancy, it just didn't work, in COVID and all that. So excuses, I know, but we're hoping to be able to get out there maybe this fall even. We've talked about doing just a very brief, like hike even a mile in and set up a camp and do something so that he could have a little pack on his back, maybe with a few things in it, and just get to experience taking everything that we need with us in there. So we'll see if we can make that happen. But normally it's been day hiking, and we've camped with the kids both in the tent, and recently we've purchased a camper. And so that's been really, really awesome. And I think the general theme, whether you're out backpacking with them or hiking with them or just camping, is just getting them outside and showing them different kinds of entertainment. My husband and I were just talking last night about how tablets and the internet are just in their faces all the time, and there's so many options all the time, and they're not getting bored anymore, or they get bored really easily, but they always have an option to jump to. And so being able to have a space to cut that out at least once a week, maybe sometimes it's once a day for some people, maybe once a month, but just having that option of going away from that sometimes is so crucial to us. And that's, maybe we're going in our camper. It's not wilderness camping, but there's no TV, there's no internet. We don't have that as your downtime. You need to figure out something else to do while we're not running around. And so I think we just want to keep that up in some regard. And we hope to keep giving them options though of getting outside and doing different things.
Perfect, yeah. And I know with this year, past year with COVID too, I am very guilty of it. And, when something's going on, I throw a movie on sometimes for my kids. Well, my oldest, and just sometimes I just need you to be occupied. And, we are trying now to take that, not take it away, but like, no more. Like now that things are like, we need to get out more as a family. So, like I said, definitely need to start planning some trips, I feel like, or just day trips to get our family out there. I did have a question then too about that. Is there a favorite place? Like I said, it doesn't have to be the North Country Trail. Obviously, we have families and, you know, grandparents, you know, all throughout the trail, but is there a favorite place that you go? That's like, this is my favorite family hiking trail that works great for my kids, or do you prefer to always switch it up? Matt?
Yeah, so our family, we've got a bunch, you know, we've got hiking right on the edge of Detroit Lakes. That's kind of our, you know, standby place, you know, because it's a 5-minute drive from home. You know, we've got Tamarack National Wildlife Refuge just up the road, you know, that has the North Country Trail, and we'll visit it there. But I would say our favorite family hiking trail is our section of the North Country Trail, the one that we adopted as a family. My kids have literally been hiking that their entire life. You know, so it's their trail. When they talk about it, it's, you know, let's go hike on our trail. And I think for my wife and I, that, you know, we just get that warm fuzzy feeling every time we hear our kids say it, because that's what we want. You know, we've been benefiting from trails our whole lives, and we want to make sure that, you know, there's going to be somebody to be the volunteers of the future. So.
Perfect. And with that, Matt, just to, not to take away too, I'm gonna have Liz and Katie answer it, but if anybody wants to adopt a trail, is there a certain way that they go about that so that they, you know, if they want to have that as a family activity, is there a way that they can go about to do that?
Yeah, just get a hold of your local NCTA chapter and tell them that, you know, your family is interested. And I would just say, you know, I can't think of a better family activity, you know, because you're doing it together. You know, there's that discovery, you know, you don't know what you're going to find on your section of the trail until you get out there and hike it. And then you kind of have to, you know, carry in the tools that you need. And, you know, we've gone out there and, you know, had hikes where, you know, there's tons of trees down and we don't cover our whole section. And then there's been other years in the spring where we just go out for a hike and we don't ever have to get the tool out. So there's a lot of sense of discovery. But yeah, it's fantastic, you know, and now that my kids are a little bit older, you know, my wife and I, we actually get them engaged in, you know, including, you know, some of them sometimes have the sharp saws, and, you know, we try and teach them, here's how you do it safely, you know, and just to see them, you know, being active participants in helping to maintain this trail, you know, they talk to their friends about it. Like, hey, you know, when we go out and we do work on the trail, you know, I'm sure their friends are like, what, you do what? Yeah, it's fantastic. So I would encourage, you know, if there's any families out there that, you know, you're looking for a great family activity, you know, and a service component part of it, you know, definitely consider adopting a section of the North Country Trail, or, you know, any other trail.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Liz, do you have a favorite place to go family hiking? Or I know you're saying you're doing different sections of Michigan too, so I don't know if it's you just like any part or changing it up.
I definitely, when they were younger, it was obviously a lot easier for me to make the decisions. But now that I have a tween, and Matt probably can identify with this, I like to give him ownership over and independence about what he wants to do and the mileage, planning, the location, looking at maps, what he needs to bring. And so a lot of it depends on what he's feeling up to that day based on where we go. I do have a strong preference just because of growing up in West Michigan. I love the lakeshore routes, the dunes. We'll just go spend an entire day exploring and doing a long day on the dune trails, which is not NCT, but we do really love the Lake Michigan, the vistas overlooking the lake, and can definitely spend an entire day getting lost there and bonding and hanging out.
Perfect. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I was like, Lake Michigan is a huge draw too, and just all those dunes too. My 2-year-old loves the water, so any chance there's any, you know, trail or any activity by the water, she's game. So I completely understand that. Kate, does your family have a favorite one? Or
Yeah, we have a couple favorite sections, and for a point you made earlier about switching it up, that's really important to us, because as Liz mentioned too, with letting your kids take ownership of that. We have some options. We're fortunate enough to have some options nearby. We only live about a mile from the trail, that there's paved sections as well as some sections through the woods too, or sections that lead to water. And so that's really nice, because if there's a day that, you know, they're just not going to walk, we could put one in the stroller and one on his little Strider bike, and we can go for a bike ride instead, and we can be on the trail too. And so that's, I think a couple of our favorite sections are the Cannon Township Trail, where it overlaps the North Country Trail through in the Rockford area, Townsend Park. There's the Cannonsburg State Game Area is going to host some of it soon. The Rogue River State Game Area, those are some nice wooded spots. And up north, we lived up in the Kalkaska area for a summer, right when we moved here with my dad and my stepmom. And Dollar Lake off of Supply Road, it's southeast of Traverse City. That's a really nice spot where you can park, and it's like a 10-minute walk down the NCT to a couple of different lake shores. And so we can get down there and swim. And I noticed in the chat, it's about the journey instead of the destination. And I know that's one's a little flip-flopped, but it's they build that excitement for having this place to get to that day. It's like, hey, we're going to go swimming. And instead of we're going for a hike, we're going swimming. So that's really fun. But to go back to it, when we just want them to be outside, we also live across from a large private camp that owns like 400 to 600 acres. And we've approached them about just using the trails, since we live pretty much across the street, and we've gotten permission to do that. And that's a really nice place to just focus on the journey, just to wander around the trails. Often we do activities with our older son. In Halloween time, we do a ghost hunt. One of us will go over and hide little Kleenex ghosts in the trees, and he goes around and finds them. Or we've done Easter egg hunts over there like that. And so just to keep them outside is awesome doing that. So a lot of favorites, but like I said, it also depends on the activity. And I think that's giving them that choice is pretty important.
Perfect, thank you. And to kind of touch base too on what Kate said, we did get a question, and Matt and Liz, I want to have you have the option too if you respond. And I know not everybody can see it. So what we received, it says, it's always so cute to see little kids at the airport wearing their backpacks, excited about the upcoming trip and feeling so grown up. Part of their excitement is the anticipation of the destination, flying to go see grandma or going to a beach vacation. How do you instill in children that hiking on a trail with their family and carrying their backpack is valuable to them, not so much for the final destination, but for the journey? Matt, did you want to touch base on that at all?
Yeah, that's a good one. To me, I think the magic is just, if you know there's a great destination out there, whether it's a waterfall or, a beautiful lake or something like that, is just kind of building that anticipation and then letting the kids enjoy it, rather than, rush in there and then rush back, which is, again, something that I, struggled with, because, I was used to hiking as an adult, and just, you get to do what you want to do, your pace, when you want it. And you have to throw all that out the window when you hike with kids. Yeah, the only other thing that thought occurred to me while we were just talking, I think water does add a whole lot, whether it's a lake or a wetland or, a Great Lake, there's just something magical about, being by water. We've done some hikes on the Superior Hiking Trail, or even in Marquette in the UP, where my kids spend hours just playing in these little pools in the rock, finding stuff, whether tadpoles, and just letting them kind of experience that. It's this big world, but it can be, 3 feet square, and they can spend hours exploring that. So yeah, it's just being flexible to let that magic happen.
Well, if I could add to Matt's point too, is, maybe you do plan to have a destination in mind for your hike that day, but if you can plan out a couple of, simple activities on your hike, and it totally depends on the age and the amount of kids, but, maybe say that as you do it, you're going to make up a story as you go, or make up a song about that experience. Or again, like I said, we've done little treasure hunt sort of things for ours along the way. And granted, that means we have to access it before we actually went out on the trail, but you could do that around a campsite while they're distracted at another time. And so I think just having these little activities, like sub activities planned within the hike, and the hike is just the means of getting out there. And you do have a cool destination, great, but maybe you're just going out and turning at some point, but you've gotten to do together while you're getting there.
I just want to jump in and add, right now, my 4-year-old is extremely interested in dinosaurs. So we do dinosaur chases, like I'll pretend that I'm a T-Rex and, predator-prey relationship. Like I talk a lot about science stuff too while we're out on the trail, but making it kind of a game and a fun, engaging time for my kiddos. Or just letting them be feral and exploring and taking time. So a lot of times what I'm doing this year doesn't really have like a destination that's going to be glorious and something that has water or something where they can play or anything like that. So we come up with just stories and games and a lot of teaching behind the scenes about the wildlife and plants and geology, everything under the sun.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for that. It was a very good question too. So I'll have to try that too. My toddler is really into dinosaurs as well. So I should feel like a lot of toddlers go through that phase or not phase, like I said, but I should try some of that too. I have a couple more questions too. And so anybody else too viewing, if there's any questions, please feel free to add them and we'll get to them. A couple questions I have, these two are kind of go together. It's kind of like family hiking, I understand means family, but when you go family hiking, do you try to invite other people with you? Do you try to go as a group, like with an organization, or is that your family special time? Just trying to think of how to get other families involved. And that's kind of the other question is, how do families get involved? Is it best to invite them along? Is there a good organization that you could show them to? Just so that especially if they're nervous to bring their kids out, or they've never hiked, or they just want company too.
Yeah, our family, we've gone hiking with friends, with whether it's friends of my wife and I or friends of, our kids, which, sometimes it's both. That's a lot of fun because, our kids get out a lot. And so I think they feel like, oh, I can help, my friend who doesn't get out a lot, I can teach them some of what I know. And that's kind of neat. But we also have gone with other family members. I love grandparent hikes. If we can get our parents to go out with us and our kids, that's just precious time, precious memories. We've also gone on, chapter hikes, which is kind of neat. Typically there's not a lot of families at the chapter hikes. And so, our kids kind of love it because they feel like they've got, lots of grandparents, that go on that hike and, lots of people looking out for them. And generally, they're very well received. Even though they can be a little rambunctious, I think a lot of our members love seeing kids out on the trail.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Liz, did you have any input you want to put on for that question?
Yeah, actually, so part of my background is being a branch ambassador for an organization called Hike It Baby, and there are branches all across the United States and some in Canada and internationally, in addition to Canada as well. It was something that helped me so much get back on the trail and have confidence in hiking with a newborn. With my youngest, my 4-year-old, I started hiking again at 2 weeks postpartum, and it was really overwhelming. And I remember crying out on trail. And then finally, I went to my first hosted hike through Hike It Baby, and there were other families in the same position. It wasn't a lot of mileage. There was a lot of camaraderie, and support and feeding breaks and children melting down. And we were all in kind of the same situation in life. And so it was like a really magical thing to discover and step into. But in the last year, of course, we have not really had that, but that's picking up again. Hikes are starting to be hosted again. And so I'm definitely looking forward to having that experience, not only for myself, but then my kiddos have peers to play with on trail and experience that socialization on trail.
Perfect, Liz. And if people want to get involved with Hike It Baby, is there a way that, how would they sign up? How would they get involved?
So one of the great things in the last year that happened, there used to be a $10 cost associated with it, but moving towards being more inclusive, there's no cost anymore to join Hike It Baby. And so you just go to hikeitbaby.com and join, and you can search by your zip code or your city for hikes near you that are being hosted. Anyone can host a hike. I was not an ambassador when I started hosting hikes. It was really scary at first, but I was so happy that I chose to be brave and hosted hikes and met those other families to be on trail with. And yeah, it's been a really great thing.
Perfect. Yeah. And I kind of found about Hike It Baby too, through one of my coworkers at the North Country Trail. She recommended it, knew I had young kids, and then, COVID hit and everything. So I haven't really been able to utilize that. So looking forward to, going out with other families as well. Kate, do you have anything else to say about that too as well?
Yeah, I would recommend trying to mix it up as much as possible. I mean, the majority of the time, it's my husband and I and our 2 kids, but we really try to split up often so that the kids are getting one-on-one time with us. It was really funny. Our older one, we took him out constantly, like Liz. I mean, he was itty bitty when we had him in the pouch and took him out immediately and did a lot of that. And then when Theo came along, we realized he never got that one-on-one time with us. He was born in the summer. It was hot. COVID was in full swing. I think we were just, exhausted as new parents are. And so, and when we were getting out, it was all of us. And we had an opportunity a few months ago where Gus was at daycare and Jake and I took a long lunch, and Theo was home with us, and we took him out, and he was just visibly thrilled the entire time. And he was so little, but just still got that connection. And so we try pretty hard to mix it up so that, Jake is having one-on-one time with them, and I'm having one-on-one time, and they have time as brothers. But also, like Matt said, mixing grandparents and mixing friends into the mix. And I also realize, though, I say all of this with the perspective of the more, nuclear family. It's me and my husband and our kids, and we have that support. And so for those that maybe are a grandparent caring for a grandchild, or a single parent, I totally encourage you to grab a friend for that extra support, or be able to look into something like Hike It Baby, so that you're not just carrying it all alone. And I don't mean that as a pun, because sometimes you are just carrying your child around. But yeah, look into that stuff, because there's so many options. And I think mixing it up is important, though, because that keeps them engaged, that keeps them excited. If it's every single time just going out with the same person, going to the same place, especially a younger child, they're probably going to get bored. Honestly, even older children, they want to be stimulated. And so getting them to new places. And I think groups like that, while kind of intimidating to introduce yourself into, I think are very, very worth it. So I strongly encourage that.
Perfect. Thank you. And one of the last questions that I had, if there's any advice that you'd give to families, whether, like I said, grandparents with kids, families, this could be a very hard question to answer, but what advice would you give just for families with hiking? Matt, did you want to start?
Yeah, one thing don't underestimate your kids. You know, they're capable of a lot. My wife and I, really the first serious hike that we did with our oldest two, they were 5, and we hiked our section of the North Country Trail, which is about 5 miles. And we were, you know, fully prepared to be carrying them at the end. And at the end, they were happier than at the start. And we thought, okay, well, on the ride home, they're surely just going to zonk in the back of the car. They had so much energy, and we were like, maybe kids can, you know, do a lot. And, you know, we've done probably, you know, 10, 11 mile hikes, you know, with our kids, and yeah, they're tired at the end, but so are we, you know, so, yeah, you know, maybe work up to it, but, you know, don't just say, oh no, we can't do that, because, you know, we got kids. You know, kids are pretty adaptable. And if it's interesting, like a lot of things that we've been talking about, kids will be more into it than probably some adults would be.
Perfect. Yeah, no, those are definitely words. And sometimes, you know, with anything hiking, and sometimes your kids are, don't underestimate them. It's something that I need to remember a lot too. Liz?
Yeah, I guess I don't want to take the Debbie Downer stance here after Matt's beautiful explanation. But one thing I try mindfully to do with my children, because I love being outdoors so much, it is absolutely my life, is not forcing them to be outside if they vocalize that they don't want to, if they're not feeling into it. I want them to develop a natural appreciation for being out on trail. And so I definitely listen to their limits and take their opinions into consideration. But also sometimes I do have something planned that I want to get done for my own personal goals. And so I'm just really looking for the signs that it's time to turn around, even though I have a goal in mind, or just watching for their cues that they're just not into it and they're done. Always putting them first on trail is what really matters a lot to me. So that's just some of the advice that I operate on.
Right now, I think that's very good advice too. Like I said, watch your kids, sometimes let them take the lead, you know, as much as possible without them running the whole show, right? Perfect. Kate?
I certainly echo that, is to have a pretty loose structure in mind of your activity for the day. We're going to maybe go to this place, but then that's it. You know, check out a couple of the trails on the map when you get there, or maybe have a couple mileage markers in mind, but be okay turning around, you know, just let it go to them. And maybe, again, if you have a little backpack, bring a few extra things and toss out some activities. Maybe somebody steps on something, you know, 2 minutes in, and they just want to sit there. Maybe, okay, let's sit and sketch what we see around us, or let's sit here and make up a song, and we can record it on the phone. You know, technology can totally be in this. We let our little one take pictures and videos on my phone, and he's really mindful of what's around him. And you have 800 useless photos on your phone, but you know, he really enjoyed doing that and playing photographer, and he was still out doing that. So yeah, letting go of your expectations when you go out and letting them lead. And a second bit of advice, I guess it's a little bit more focused on, is because I have little ones, is baby wearing. I've worn my kids on my front pouch and on a backpack too, but sometimes that can be clumsy putting it on, especially if you have a little one that you've never put in the front before, or even the big, we have like an Osprey kids pack. Those things are huge. They're wonderful and they distribute the weight great, but they're big and they're awkward. And so I highly recommend practicing putting those on at home with somebody and then without somebody, because it's so different when I've had my husband help me lift it up onto my back and strap it on versus, oh, I have to do this myself. How am I going to not like throw my kid across the parking lot? So I highly recommend practicing all those adjustments and going from there and finding something that works for you. And if that doesn't work for you, maybe pick shorter hikes or a trail that you can have a stroller on or something like that. Or again, winter sledding. There's a lot of options to get them out there, but practice and give yourself some grace.
Abby, one more that I just thought of, and it's been a challenge for us, as our oldest two get older, the teenage years, if we say we're going for a hike, it's, oh no, we don't have to do that again. And, we just push through that because we know if we get them to the trailhead and they get out on the trail, Mother Nature will take care of the rest. It's like hardwired in kids. I think that, when they're out in nature, they appreciate it. They might grumble before they get there, but once they're there, we've got nature on our side as parents that kids will just, it's like, whoa. And so, yeah, just push through that, initial grumbling, because once you're out there, it'll all get better.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate all of this advice. Like I said, there's a lot of things, like I said, I need to take the plunge and get my kids more out on the trail too. And, my excuse was always like, well, I have an 11-week-old, or, subtract the weeks, a little infant, it's too early. But yet then we go to Lake Michigan. So, I just need to get out there and do things. But I want to say thank you to the three of you for giving us an hour of your time to discuss family hiking. And I hope that this kind of sheds light for some people who are avid hikers, need some new tips or tricks, or even people like me who haven't taken their family out as much as they'd like to, and are really wanting to get out on the trail more. So I greatly appreciate your time today, and kind of discussing everything. And with that too, I'll let everybody go, but I just want to do a friendly reminder that our next event, like I said, the virtual celebration is going till August 18th, but our next event will be on a Sunday. So Sunday, August 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have the Watershed Journal. They're going to be doing a writer's workshop with us. And so looking forward to doing that. They're going to kind of dive in about how nature can inspire your writing, doing sensory language, imagery, and setting specific to our region of the state. So they were one that we were going to do in person in Clarion. So I hope you can all join us for that as well. But again, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Liz and Kate, for your time. And yes, we'll see you all on Sunday.
Thanks, everybody.